Okay, this is a aftermarket billy head. It's been modified by me. I'm trying to explain the difference in spring heights. I have 4 different springs here, 3 different valves, one head. All right, in this head, you see I have the valve pocket is actually cut 120 thousandths deep, and that's a 100,000 shim on the intake. The shim for the exhaust is right there. I just took it out for the video, right? But anyway, now the difference is this is a single spring. These are normally for applications up to maybe 300 lift, right? They work good. You still have to run uh, a smaller, lighter valve for this, right? So normally you see these with a 28, 25 combo, or maybe a 27, 25 combo, or even stock 25, 24 millimeter combo in a stock head, right? This is also the stock valve. And then you always got to worry about the height, right? These are installed at about a 7/8 install height. That's a 0.875 installed height. And so you can only run so much lift before coil bind with these. Now, this is a custom aftermarket titanium valve right here. And I normally set this up for, this was what I used to do a long time ago. I would cut it for 2 springs, right? If you can see the groove for the lock. The bottom lock is for this spring here. This is a heavy dual 500 lift spring, so this is for cam lifts. It will say up to 510 depending on where you install it at, but you want to have around about a 1 inch 125 installed height, or pretty much a 28 millimeter install height, and you can compress it up to 510 before it coil binds. So this is at installed height at about a 1 1/8 install height. I think it's 50 pounds, right? Before, at install height. I normally had this going with that one, right? But at the second bead, the top bead, right? That's when this spring here comes into play. And this is a 600 spring right here, right? This is for cams up to, or total valve lifts up to 600 lift. As you can see, it's a taller spring with a thicker coil, right? And it installs at a 125 installed height. And at 125 installed height is 60 pounds, right? So you can always install it at a lower install height and it'll be more pounds, say 65 or even 70, right? But it's going to coil bind at an earlier rate. So you still want to get the full travel of 600 if you're running up to 600 lift. So if you're only running, say, 525 lift, you don't necessarily need to have it installed up at 600. You can install it at like a 120 install height, 1.2, and it'll be about 65 pounds, right? Which will last longer in the end, right? Because normally all these springs, after about a good 5 minutes of runtime, they lose some of their spring pressure. It's just how it is, Comes with heat and wear. And this is the most common, this is what I normally use in most of my big valve small block heads. This is like the most common with a 3228. I run this white stripe dyno, and it's good up to actually 450 lift, right? But I normally install it so it can run a max of, say, 440 lift, only because I get a little bit more spring pressure. So the difference is only like 2 pounds, you know. So if I install it at a 1 inch install height or a 1 inch 020 install height, that's 40 pounds, right? But I normally install it at exactly a 120 install height, right? So I can run at a 120 install height, it's about 42 pounds closed, right? So I can run the most common say would be a 308 dyno or a 310 mod, or even the Isky 315s or the Isky 330 with 1.3 roller rockers, right? That would be this spring, which is the most common I normally get, with 1.3 roller rockers, you know. With this, you can't run the stock length valve. The stock length valve is just too short. So you have to run the aftermarket, which I don't have any right here, but it will be in between the height of this one and this one here, right? And so the difference is, like you say, this little single is about an 0.875 install height. This one is a 1 inch install height. This one here is about a 1 1/8 inch install height. And this one here is a 1 1/4 inch install height, right? You notice the bigger springs have a bigger install height, or taller install height. They run up for bigger cams. You can't just put a 400 lift cam with 1.3 roller rockers and you're running this spring or even this spring, you know. That's why whenever you get a head, you need to know all the exact details of the information. Maybe how much it flows at whatever lift. And then even if you get the head tested up to 500 lift, it's no use of getting it tested up to 500 if you're only going to run 300 lift. You know, you normally want to test it 50 thousandths more than what you're going to actually run. So if you're going to run only 350 lift or only 300 lift, there's no use of getting it tested 500, 600 lift. You know, you want to get it tested 350 or 400 lift. In this case here, this head flows 166 at, what was it, 550 lift, but I'm gonna run 550 lift. So, you know, that's the difference right there, you know. And this will be 36.5 intake with what is this, a 30.5 exhaust, something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, this is the actual exhaust valve for this head. As you see, it's taller than even this one. So it's already made, I have it set up for this big spring here, right? The spring is set up to be, it's installed at what is it, a 1.200 installed height. So I got about 65 pounds closed right now, you know. So I don't plan on changing anything, but I'm running, like I said, I'm running about 550 lift in this head. It will be what cam is in? It'll be maybe, what is it? Actually, I think I'm running a 400, or I'm not for sure, was it a 380 cam in this thing? Let me see real quick. Let me see. It won't go in with ease, huh? There we go. Okay. See, normally it sits there and the spring goes on top, but there's no shim there right now, right? But as you see, it's gonna get compressed a little. Then it's gonna get clamped on. If I compress it right now, it would be a 1/300 install height, which is too high, and I will only have about, say, 45 pounds or something like that install height. Even though I can get away with it maybe, but when I get high RPM, I don't want to do that. But when you go high RPM and you go on high lifts and all that, you want to, and bigger valves especially, say in the big block GX390, you want titanium valves. Believe me, them valves get very, very heavy. And these valves here are about, I would say about 16 grams or something. Comparable to a stainless at the same size would be double the weight, about 32 grams. So even this little stock stamped steel or whatever this is, pot metal, is heavier than this one, right? And this is a much bigger valve. As you see, the head is bigger and it's much taller, but it's lighter. This is 5.5 millimeter and this is 5.5 millimeter. It's heavier because of the material. It's all good, lighter valve train or whatever, but that's what goes in these here. Anyway, I wanted to just take the time out to explain, about cutting spring pockets too. The spring pockets aren't just to get the correct spring height. They also to keep the spring from moving side to side when you running high RPM. So it helps in two ways, right? If I don't have it exactly right, I said, well, I can always cut the spring pocket 30, 40 thousandths and get the right spring height that I want, which is a good thing. And any builder that does heads knows about this, So you say, okay, what spring height you go run? So I can tell every time I sell a head or do a head for someone, I say, oh man, you can only run a max of 440 lift with this head, or you can only run a max of 410 lift. Would say if I was on the run the smaller dual spring, which would be like the green stripe. The green stripes are about 10 pounds weaker than this dual white stripe, which is a very common spring as well. And so either way, that's about it.